Testing. Good afternoon, all. It's my great honor to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon, Mary Hegland. She's professor of cultural anthropology at Santa Clara University. She's done field work as an ethnologist in Turkey, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Hyderabad, and of course, Iran. Numerous publications are credited to her that are widely read. These publications are concerned with women, gender, and family, aging and the elderly in Iran, and among Iranian Americans in California. And she's also taken up the subject of religion, ritual, and politics in the Iranian Revolution, 1978-79. Her articles have appeared in leading journals such as Iranian Studies, American Ethnologist, Anthropology of the Middle East, and Signs, Journal of Women and Culture and Society. She has also been a major contributor to the highly regarded Encyclopedia of Women and Islamic Cultures. A leading ethnologist in the field of Middle Eastern and gender studies, Mary is most widely known for her moving and in-depth accounts of the social, economic, religious, and political transformations that occurred in the large village of Aliabad on the outskirts of Shiraz, now actually part of the Shiraz suburban scene, particularly before, during, and after the Iranian Revolution. The quality of her work there in that site was first recognized by the Middle East Studies Association, which awarded her dissertation on the subject with the Malcolm H. Kerr Dissertation Award in 1986. The career-long outcome of her work there is embedded by her award-winning book, just published in 2013, Day of Revolution, Political Unrest in an Iranian Village. That's through Stanford University Press. Erica Friedel, another major noted ethnologist of Iran, has praised this book most highly, saying, quote, "No other text about modern Iran provides such clear insights into the relationships among political, economic, and cultural factors between the personal, political, rural, and urban dynamics in rapid culture change in Iran." So it's my pleasure to introduce Mary Hegland to you, and the title of her talk will be based much on this subject that I just outlined for you. It's called Changing Practices and Perceptions of Marriage Among People of Aliabad, 1978 to 2015. Mary.
Thank you, Juan, for that very kind introduction. And I want to, before I go on, thank Janet Afari, a dear friend and colleague, for organizing this and for always being such a wonderful support and friend. It's just a joy, particularly to see the younger scholars who are up and coming. It really is thrilling, especially for me as an anthropologist, to see anthropology students. It really makes me happy. Thank you so much. When I arrived in Aliabad in September 2015, I went to stay with my friend from long ago, Rana. She had recently bought a small house and was living next door to the sister of another of my dear friends, Mina. One day, Mina's daughter, Zohre, was hosting several of her friends from her university classes. They had all been earning degrees similar to an associate level in accounting at an institution located in a suburb on the Aliabad side of Shiraz. Not far from Aliabad, at least two of the girls' families lived in apartments on the other side of Shiraz. I was invited to join this little gathering. Zohre's two older sisters and her older brother were all married. Zohre was engaged and would be married in summer of 2017, which I missed, darn. She was looking forward to being married. She enjoyed spending time with her husband-to-be and his family. She talked about the positive aspects of having children and looked forward to having babies. However, she did express the hope that the marriage would turn out well. The young women were talking about marriage, about whether or not it was a good idea to get married. Yes, Shugufei said, marriage is okay if he has a pleasant personality and a good financial situation. No, Nazanin said, I don't want to marry. I don't like marriage. You can always be afraid. Maybe you will regret it. Someone else added, but a single life also has its regrets. Then they asked me, do you think it's better to have a boyfriend or to get married? Have a boyfriend? Oh, I was kind of shocked. And I was kind of taken off, I didn't know what to say. I felt rather put on the spot. And without thinking too much and wanting to avoid the possibility of being quoted with an answer that might offend the parental generation, I answered, I think it's a good thing to study, work to get experience, and become more mature, before getting married. Of course, as an anthropologist, that was a really bad thing to do. I should have turned the question around and used it as a way to investigate their views more deeply, but I just didn't think that fast. What they would do, the girls decided, is to rest this coming term. They would take some time off. They'd rest, think, and work on their health and their figures. They'd go to the gym. Zohre goes to a gym, thankfully only 10 minutes away once a week, and is trying to lose weight. Working out at a gym or exercise classes at a field has become extremely popular among younger Aliabad women. Several of Zohre's friends said they go every day to the gym near the Imamzadeh, the main Shiraz shrine. One of them announced that she goes every day except Friday, and she's lost 18 kilos. Zohre's mother came in during the last part of the discussion. She commented after listening for a while, my daughter-in-law, the couple lived in an apartment upstairs. She goes to the Bashka, the Danishka, the Araishka. Now she should go to the Zaimangah. She should go to the labor and delivery hospital. The others said she's always telling her daughter-in-law to have a baby. The daughter-in-law had married 3 years earlier and was then 27 years old. Although her family was originally from Aliabad, they moved to the city and only moved back a few years ago. When she came in a little later, after driving back from the city, her daughter-in-law presented a very sophisticated image. Her hair was dyed blonde of different shades in a chic short cut. She wore black pants and beautifully done makeup. With both her mother-in-law and her father-in-law, she spoke in a very straightforward, open and forceful manner, not showing any deference, but behaving as one might with one's peers. This encounter, early in my 3-month fieldwork in fall 2015, provides an introduction to the focus on and dilemmas and concerns about marriage. Now marriage, to a greater degree, is perceived as a choice. So one has to make a decision. And any decision might be the wrong one. It might bring trouble. Although in actuality, because for the majority of Aliabad females, due to the economy, lack of good job opportunities for females, and constraints against females working, in reality, there really isn't much of a choice. For lack of alternatives, pretty much the girls will have to get married. But the idea is there, and now is being talked about and discussed. Later, Zohre confided in me. She really wasn't interested in continuing her education. Her intent, it seemed, was to marry and have children and live a life not dissimilar from her mother and 2 sisters of domestic involvement and social engagements with relatives and in-laws in Aliabad. as is becoming typical for many Aliabad young women. Zohre attends schooling outside of Aliabad, very different from 30, 40 years ago. Like girls all over Iran, many Aliabad girls now have access to post-diploma education in Shiraz, other cities in Fars province, or even universities in other provinces. She therefore comes into contact with people outside of her relatives and neighbors in Aliabad. Peer group associations have become far more significant for Aliabad young women in recent years. They now are able to go into Shiraz or travel elsewhere for education, and then feel able also to make trips of their own, on their own, for other reasons, with iPhones, smartphones, Twitter accounts, Facebook, and the university students' interaction and communication with their associates outside of Aliabad have become more frequent and significant than contact with their Aliabad relatives and neighbors. Their worlds have expanded. Also brought out in this encounter with Zohre's friends and mother is the common contrast between the older generation's view of marriage and ideas and behavior of some of the younger generation. The majority of women in the older generation, and pretty much actually everybody, maintain the attitude that men should be the providers and women the homemakers. When a friend repeated the news I had heard and told to some people, that Middle Eastern women have the lowest labor market involvement, and among the Middle Eastern women, Iranians women have the lowest rate of employment outside of the home. Among them, the women, the Aliabad women, exchanged pleased looks. They were pleased about this. Zohre's mother wants her daughter-in-law to have a baby, but many younger Aliabad women, especially those who have closer contacts with Shiraz, and all the more so those who have moved into Shiraz, want to put off having children these days and spend more time on themselves and going after their own interests and goals. Zohre herself seems to be going in the direction of a marriage, lifestyle, and aspirations more like those of the older Aliabad women. She is surely one of the Aliabad cousins referred to by her cousins who lived in the city all their lives in Shiraz, and they said that we are the Aliabad girls, the ones who live in Shiraz, are not interested in progress. They're not interested in attaining better lives or reaching new goals. They're satisfied just to do the same thing as their mothers. The city cousins complain. The city cousins saw a difference between rural and urban women regarding their views about personal development, marriage, family, and children. Sure, they would say, maybe Aliabad girls get more of an education these days, but they are just the same as before. They go on living in the same way. They themselves, the city cousins say, in contrast, want to improve themselves. They want progress. They want better lives. The world has changed, they say, and they want to change as well. Clearly, Iranians are experiencing a dynamic period of questioning, change, and controversy regarding marriage. I have been very fortunate to conduct research both in 78 and 79 when I first went to do my dissertation research and went to Aliabad, and then again from 2003 until 2017. So I'm kind of able to look at the changes over time and am just absolutely struck with a lot of the dramatic changes. And my methods, of course, are anthropological participant observation. So it's been at least 3 years that I've spent in Aliabad, working among Aliabadis, or in Shiraz, or even in Turkey. And I've been able to kind of look at people's transforming ideas and behavior regarding marriage. Such transformations have paralleled and interacted with the dramatic cultural, social, political, religious, economic, and infrastructure changes in Iranian society. Whereas some similar changes in Europe and America stretched over centuries, The changes and transformations in Iranian society have been compressed into decades and are therefore all the more noticeable and in conflict with previous perceptions and practices. I've investigated the dramatic changing understandings of marriage among Aliyabad people through such anthropological methods as open-ended interviews, participation in discussions, listening to commentary and conversations of others, collecting stories, anecdotes, and case studies about marriages and related issues, and participation in weddings and other gatherings during more than 3 years of living among and joining in the social life of Aliyabad people in Aliyabad and nearby settlements and Shiraz and even Turkey. The changes in views on marriage have been enabled and encouraged by economic and lifestyle improvements, changes in means of subsistence, better transportation, travel, communication, social media, and access to global culture, more education, literacy, and access to a wider and more varied circle of social networks, especially for young people. More rural to urban migration and back and forth movement, increasing segregation between the generations, and increasing strengthening of youth culture and peer group interaction. The Islamic Republic government policies and actions, sometimes which have unintended consequences, economic improvements, and then the decline of the last several years. And in fact, in 2015, what was most striking to me were the attitudes of hopelessness, bitterness, dissatisfaction, and desire to escape as the only possible solution to the problems on the part of the young people. So many different influences on marriage. Between 1978 and 2015, the concept of marriage and ideas of marriage have become radically transformed, and especially among those who have moved to Shiraz, are more educated, more economically advantaged, and supported by economic endeavors other than the earlier typical village agriculture and low-level trade and buying and selling. You can see the changes more in these people. There is, of course, a great deal of variation, and many types of marriages now exist kind of side by side. We can see types of different marriage relationships. And there's, of course, a variation according to families, individuals, socioeconomic classes, and ethnic groups among Aliyabadis. For the most part, in 1978, marriage continued to be perceived as an automatic and early point in the life cycle, not too complicated or difficult for parents to attain for their children, and necessary for males and females, along with becoming parents, to become complete human beings, full adults, and full members of society. People valued marriage extremely highly, and parents saw the marriage of their children to be the apex of their own lives, along with their children bearing their own children. Marriage was seen as benefiting males and as necessary for the support, maintenance, guardianship, and protection of females. The perception of marriage as an intrinsic and necessary aspect of Muslim life was taken for granted. Marriage was looked at as so valuable, positively, and religiously obligatory that assistance by better-off people to young men lacking the necessary means to get married brought religious blessings and credit to the benefactor. Marriage was viewed as holding so much of the blessings of this worldly life for males that replicas of the specially decorated bridal room, Hegland, were built as memorials for males who had died too young to attain marriage. In early years, hoped for attainments from marriage included adding a female to the groom's household for help with the work, setting up a lifelong partnership of gender division of labor, female labor for the male and male material support for the female, and the way for both of them to achieve what the society offered, the means to full adulthood, membership in the community, children, sex, and place in community and society. Generally, marriage did bring these benefits, even if it did not necessarily bring about soulmate, best friend, intimacy, pleasant companionship, or emotional support. That was not necessarily expected. For most females, it was also not expected that marriage would bring a high level of material advancement. In the 50s, 60s, and even 70s, for the great majority of people in Allahabad, daily life was on a very simple, minimal level. Mud brick homes of 1 or 2 rooms were not decorated. One could hope for a woven rug, or at the very most, a small Persian rug. Perhaps a new suit of clothing once a year, meat maybe once a week or less, and rice not too often either. People visited the public bathhouse perhaps once every 2 weeks or once a month. Even radios had come to Allahabad recently. 2 automobiles were owned by villagemen. Now they're just all over the place, and as you know, traffic accidents are a very high cause of death in Iran. And only a few shopkeepers owned an old pickup truck. Life was lived rather close to survival level, but since the majority of villagers lived at this level, people did not feel their deprivation so much.